Welcome to the real world. My name's Cameron. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Joined by my brother Carson. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. Glad to be here. Talking about Spy Kids.
Yeah, this episode is all about Spy Kids, episode 64 of the Real World podcast. We're going to rank and review all the Spy Kids movies, as well as the latest film, Spy Kids Armageddon. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos here at The Real World. We are movie fanatics, so you are in the right place if you're a movie fan. If you want to know about all the latest movies coming to streaming, coming to theaters, we review and talk about all these movies, new movies, old movies. I've got a huge physical media collection, as you can see behind us. We talk about all those movies as well. So make sure you, again, hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We're on social media. Those links are in the description. Carson and I are both on Letterboxd.
Yes.
Those links are below as well. So check us out there. Today we're going to talk about Spy Kids, but before we do that, there are a few bits of movie news we wanted to discuss, so let's kick it off. All right, so we're jumping into movie news with Netflix. Netflix, of course, is home of the latest Spy Kids movie that we just watched.
Spy Kids Armageddon.
But they're also going to be the home of Richard Linklater's latest film.
Oh,
now Linklater's a guy we like, the Before trilogy,
yes,
School
absolutely.
of Rock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's done a lot of good movies.
Yep.
And he just directed this action comedy called Hitman. And
Is this based on the video game Hitman?
It is not. It's an original screenplay. Glenn Powell's in it from Top Gun Maverick. A lot of people know as Hangman.
Yeah, sure.
And so Netflix has acquired the distribution rights to this film for $20 million, making it the biggest acquisition out of this latest film festival that it's coming out of. I think it was Sundance.
Are they expecting this to be a big franchise, do you think?
I don't see it being a franchise, but it is possible.
Okay.
Netflix always wants a franchise. They always try to make sequels.
I was shocked that Extraction got a sequel.
Yeah, I know, right? So we'll have to wait and see. That should be released later this year or early next year. Next up, Elemental was released on Disney Plus. It reached 26 million views in just 5 days. That far surpasses any other Disney Plus release this year, including Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is pretty incredible. So
definitely check out Elemental if you haven't.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. It was really interesting. I've got a quick review on the channel right now you can check out. It's one of those things where I'm wondering, has Disney conditioned us to only watch Pixar movies at home?
I don't know. I had a wonderful time with a theatrical experience watching Elemental.
I know, but it didn't make very much in theaters.
I know, that's true.
So I'm wondering, they released several Pixar movies direct to Disney Plus last year, over the past couple years.
Yeah, Luca did very well.
Yep. And so I think Turning Red was as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting. I'm have to, wait and see what the next Pixar movie they release in theaters is and see how that does. I don't know if it was just the marketing or what it was.
It must have been. I assume if you were to release something like a WALL-E 2 or an Incredibles 3.
Sequels, yeah.
Those would probably be very successful in the theaters.
Right.
But it's always hard to sell new ideas. But Soul did relatively well.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's that. Moving into the Rocky and Creed franchise.
Okay.
Creed Shinji Dai is the latest thing that they're doing in this universe.
Is this an anime?
It's an anime movie.
Wow.
Anime movie that they will be releasing in theaters, a limited theatrical release before it gets released on Amazon Prime.
Okay, awesome.
So no trailer, no poster yet, but we know that this is something Michael B. Jordan has been wanting to do.
Absolutely.
He's a big anime fan.
If you saw Creed 3, you saw a lot of anime influence in that movie.
For sure. So very curious to see what that's going to look like, what it's going to be like. It's going to be very different, but definitely looking forward to it. In the world of DC, Blue Beetle has set a 4K Blu-ray release date for October 31st. So this Halloween, you can pick up a copy of Blue Beetle for your home entertainment collection. I will certainly be picking one up for mine.
I think it's well worth it. I like that movie more every time I think about it.
Yes, I agree. It's really fun, really solid, just a very enjoyable kind of origin story.
Blue Beetle kind of goes along with the Robert Rodriguez filmography.
Absolutely.
It feels very congruent with those.
100%.
Very
family-oriented.
Family-oriented.
Latin family.
Latin American, yeah.
Speaking of Latin America, Guillermo del Toro announced this week that he was developing a Star Wars film.
I heard about that.
Which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
It was strongly hinted that it was Jabba the Hutt was going to be
Jabba.
Was going to be the subject of the film. David Goyer, who wrote the Dark Knight films, wrote Man of Steel. Blade. I think he wrote a couple of the Blade
Sure.
movies. He was on board to write. I think they actually had the script ready to go. And so, yeah, I'm very curious if this ends up happening in the future. I mean, obviously, he's one of my favorite filmmakers ever.
He's excellent.
So
I would love for him to at least do something like a Star Wars Visions episode.
Yes,
The False
just do a short,
or
you know,
something like that.
Would be tons of fun. But
Star Wars Visions is a good place where we can
Yeah.
have those opportunities for new
but
faces
I'm
to
hoping
tell
that branches out into the theatrical films. I mean, I would love. I mean,
Yeah.
these kind of filmmakers playing in that world would just be so unique.
It would
you
be.
know,
It
the
would
guys
be.
with very specific visions.
I saw an interview recently where Chris Nolan was asked
Yeah.
if he would do a Star Wars, and he had
Yep.
no comment.
Right, right, exactly. So yeah, that would be a lot of fun, but we'll have to wait and see if it actually ends up happening. Speaking of unproduced films, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 3
Oh,
was in development for a long time. They had a completed script even,
wow.
and they had a title. I'm a big fan of the title.
What's the title?
Planet of the Greats.
Oh, that's great.
You maniac.
You
You blew it up.
That's great.
Yeah, that
Take it
would've-
into space.
Yeah.
That's an awesome idea.
It would have been such a cool thing. Phil Lord was talking to fans on Twitter about this, and he revealed that title. No green light at the studio yet. Obviously, Sony is focused on their Spider-Verse films, but hopefully one day in the future we could get Cloudy 3. I wasn't a big fan of 2, but the first one is one we watch constantly here. So very interested to see if they would make a third one.
I was recently watching the audio commentary with the directors for Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah.
And the Flistimafer actually shows up.
Really?
In
wow.
the, the digital spider girl?
Yes.
When it shows her real room.
Spider-Bit.
Yeah. Behind her is the Flistimafer.
Oh, wow.
Running her whole system.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's great. All right, folks. Well, that's it for movie news. There is one movie anniversary, though, that I wanted to talk about real quick. It is Secondhand Lions. This is a classic film celebrating its 20th anniversary this week. Really enjoy this. A really good family movie. If you're looking for something to entertain all ages, this is definitely a go-to movie for us. So definitely one worth checking out. I have the Blu-ray edition here. Hasn't come to 4K yet, but the Blu-ray looks great. It's got a lot of bonus features on it, including a commentary with the director. This stars Michael Caine, Robert Duvall, and Haley Joel Osment, of course, who many people know from The Sixth Sense. This is when he's a little bit older, and it's just a really, really fun kind of fantastical, whimsical adventure film. Very grounded, though.
Got a lot of heart.
Emotion, a lot of heart. Very funny as well. A lot of quotable lines and stuff in here. So definitely check it out if you haven't. All right, well, that's it for movie news. So we're going to jump into our review of every Spy Kids movie, starting with 2001's Spy Kids.
Yes.
Spy Kids came out of nowhere. It was just one of these movies that I feel like no one really was expecting anything from. It was from this director that, obviously at this point he had made several films that were quite popular.
Mostly adult films.
Right. Yeah. El Mariachi, Desperado, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
And then he comes in with this family adventure story about spies and their kids, and this zany
villain is like super floopy and weird.
It has so many unique ideas in it.
That has a lot of personality.
This is a childhood favorite of mine. I grew up watching this. Great opening shot.
Yep. Oh, that opening shot is gorgeous.
So good. And then it gets into this really cool flashback, which
it's framed as a bedtime story.
Fictional story. It's really the story of how their parents met, the kids.
Right.
Carmen and Junie Cortez, Antonio Banderas, Carla Gugino do a great job.
The whole opening half of the movie does a great job at establishing the world and the kinds of things that they deal with every day is just very fun.
Yep, absolutely. So really enjoy it. It's got some, great lines in it. It's very positive about family and about marriage and about these kinds of things, which is really cool.
Right.
It just has some really unique ideas, again, with the Floops Fluglies and this whole mutation thing that they do.
Exactly.
Just very colorful.
Extremely colorful,
very silly, very heightened reality.
Right.
It's an homage. It's an homage to James Bond.
Sure,
but it's its own version of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has a lot of flavor and spice and everything that it does.
For sure.
It's everything about the movie is very high energy, but the stakes also feel very high. Yeah, it's not just like a silly cartoon where nobody ever gets hurt.
Right.
It's like their parents are really in danger and they're really worried about them. And there are a lot of really good intimate character moments that they develop over the course of the movie. A lot of character
growth. Yeah.
My favorite thing about this movie, and really I think is the heart of the whole thing, is Junie and Carmen's relationship. How they're constantly bickering and calling each other names and arguing about stuff. But kind of ultimately at the end, this is really the arc of the entire series, but kind of at the end of this movie, they're all united as a family, and they kind of realize the importance of family. It's very cool.
Yes, 100%. It's great. It's got some hilarious moments, some really cool action sequences, chase sequences.
Very creative.
Again, memorable dialogue, great cast. Alexa Vega and Daryl Sabara do a great job, as well as Alan Cummings as Floop, Tony Shalhoub as Minion. Carrie Hatcher's in there, Robert Patrick. I mean, it's just a great cast of actors, all doing a great job. Overcoming fear is another big theme, for Junie. Like you mentioned, the importance of family and being united and that whole thing. So it's just a really well-made film that I can watch over and over again. I have over the years. It holds up even as an adult. A lot of movies don't do that.
Sure.
A lot of kid movies you go back and watch when you're an adult, you're like, that's not so good, But this one really does hold up. It's very clever. It's very well made. And so, it's one of our all-time favorites.
A lot of amazing practical effects. Yes. And some impressive visual effects that surprisingly hold up.
They do, which is really cool.
Also, there's a deleted scene, which I think is standard now on Netflix, which is the shark scene. When they go underwater and that whole sequence was deleted. I hadn't seen that for years.
Right. Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think the movie's a little bit better without it.
Yeah, you don't need it.
It's a crisp 90-minute movie that just moves at a breakneck pace, and it's very good.
It is, definitely. Music's great in all these too. We'll talk about the music more as we go on, but great music. So great theme. It's a very recognizable theme, which is hard to do, because it does pay homage to Bond again as a theme, but it's more of that kind of like Latin flair, right? So it's pretty cool. All right, now there's a line in this movie that relates directly to the sequel. So after their mom tells them the story of the spies who fell in love, Carmen says, "Great story, but it needs a better ending." And Junie says, "Yeah, it needs monsters."
It needs more monsters.
And guess what he gave us in the sequel? Monsters. Yeah. So Spy Kids 2. The Island of Lost Dreams. What a great title. I remember seeing this in theaters. I was so excited to see this in theaters. It was out in theaters, I think in 2004. And so this one is another spy film, but they take it in a much more fantastical direction.
It gets kind of fantasy. So kind of the whole plot of the movie is they're regular spies who go on spy missions, and there's this whole like hierarchy of spies, and
now there's spy kids. Now there's a whole spy kids division.
There isn't an official OSS kids division, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of started by Carmen and Junie.
Right.
But there's this whole hierarchy of power going on with the spy kids that we know, Carmen and Junie, and Gary and Gertie.
Right.
Who are like the mirror image of Junie and Carmen. And their dynamic is very different, and they clash a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun dynamic that plays into the story. But they later on in the film, they go to this place called the Island of Leaky Leaky.
Yes. And that's where they meet what's his name?
Romero.
Of course. Played by the great Steve Buscemi.
Yes.
And that whole sequence is just tons of fun. This is where they go deep into these crazy monsters. It's very Ray Harryhausen.
Absolutely.
Stop motion effects.
Like literally stop motion skeletons.
Yes.
There's monkey spiders. There's
snake lizards.
Lizards.
So cool. So they just do a great job with all the effects. You can tell they had a bigger budget here, more to work with. Better effects. I mean, it really just looks great.
It's a much grander scope and scale.
100%.
The first movie feels very small.
Yep.
It's very easy to follow. Very.
You're with their characters the whole time.
Exactly.
This one's more like you're with the parents and you're with the kids and you're with the giggles. It's kind of a much more sprawling film.
Yeah.
And more of a globe-trotting adventure. So definitely a lot of fun.
And the music, I think, is even better in the second one.
It is.
It's even better.
I agree.
This has one of the greatest post-credit scenes, I think, in cinema history, which is where Carmen and Junie are on a mission.
Right.
And they have to pose as rock stars. So they're given gadgets where Carmen has to sing.
Right.
She has a microphone.
Yep.
That makes her voice sing, and
Yeah.
then Junie has a guitar that plays itself.
Yep. And then
sick.
Well, we forgot to mention Uncle Machete, who's like one of the best characters in the entire franchise. He shows up in all of them, and he looks at the device. He
creates the gadget.
It didn't have batteries.
Yeah, exactly.
They were just doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, he creates some cool gadgets. Danny Trejo plays the character, and he does a great job. He, of course, has his own spin-off films, Machete and Machete Kills, which I guess supposedly is supposed to be canon. I heard says
that's what Machete was doing before the kids were born.
Right, exactly. So, second one is tons of fun. Again, a great cast of new characters that are introduced.
Big cast, very big cast, especially compared to the first movie.
For sure.
But still very well balanced. Everybody kind of has a little arc that they go through. Yes. Gary and Gertie and their relationship with their dad kind of evolves.
Right.
It's very cool.
Yeah, 100%.
A running theme also that I've kind of found throughout all the Spy Kids movies is technology. Even like in the Spy Kids 2, the MacGuffin is the transmuker device, which is one of the greatest MacGuffin names.
Yeah,
the transmuker device is just so fun. But it shuts down all technology, right? So kind of technology is kind of a running theme throughout all these movies. Less so in the first one, even though it is kind of a little bit because the mutated technology, and the robot kids, and the third brain. Yeah. So it kind of is.
Yep. Well, that brings us to the most technologically, driven film of them all, which is Spy Kids 3 or Spy Kids 3D.
Yes.
Game Over. I also remember seeing this one in theaters.
This one I remember watching most vividly as a kid.
At home, we got the DVD, which came with 4 pairs of 3D glasses.
Yes, that looked like the glasses in the movie.
Yeah, 100%. So you put them on, and you can watch them right on your TV. Now you have to buy a 3D TV and 3D Blu-ray player and it's
that way the movie's not all blue and red.
Exactly, but still, I find that to be a lot more fun.
Sure.
It looks better today, admittedly. But this one, they go into the video game, right?
They go into the digital world. Well, the movie here's what's really, I think, one of the coolest parts of the movie.
The opening is great.
It opens as a film noir,
right?
And Junie has left because he leaves the OSS at the end of Spy Kids 2,
right?
And he's on his own. And he's a detective, private investigator, trying to save up money to buy a video game.
Right.
And, just over the course of the film, it progresses, and we learn that Carmen is stuck in the video game.
Yes.
In the game over world.
Yeah, she's still a spy. So she went into the game to figure out what's this game all about.
Because the toy maker who's behind the game is an ex-OSS villain.
Played by Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, yeah, baby.
The one and only. Oh, man. It's
so good. He's excellent.
He's great. And this one introduces Ricardo Montalban as the grandfather.
Well, he is in Spy Kids 2.
Oh, that's true. He does show up in Spy Kids 2.
Both the grandparents show up in Spy Kids 2. They're major players in that movie.
They come back in Spy Kids 3.
But we see so much more of Grandpa in Spy Kids 3. Yes. He's basically the kind of old wizard
figure,
the mentor figure 100%. To Junie in this movie.
Right.
Which is just awesome because this movie, what I like about I think all the Spy Kids movies is they build on each other. They progress.
Yes.
It's not just one adventure to the next.
Right.
It's kind of like
there's a lot of continuity.
There's a lot of continuity, exactly.
Character development, everything.
Yeah. So kind of where Junie is in Spy Kids 3 is where Carmen was in Spy Kids 1. Where Carmen was like, I don't really want to deal with family. I worry about my own stuff.
Right.
I can't trust anybody anymore. And then that's where we find Junie in Spy Kids 3, where he's kind of abandoned the OSS.
Right. And then he has to team up with this kind of ragtag team.
Exactly.
And they're my favorite part of the movie. These 3 kids that he meets that are all so unique.
The beta testers. Yeah.
Right. And they're so specific in their kind of personalities and their dynamics.
They're like video game characters.
Yes.
Where you would have the smart character who's very techy, Francis.
The tough guy.
You've got the tough guy who's Arnold. He's wearing all red and he's super cool. He's great at fighting.
And then the cool kid. And then what's
the cool kid's name? Lance?
I can't remember. Zach. I want to say Zach or something, but it might have been Lance, maybe.
It's something with the
Miles.
I think it might be Larry or something
remember.
like that. I wish I could remember.
It's really fun. The third one is a really, really good, solid film with a lot of big action scenes in this one. It's mostly CGI, right? It's pretty much all CGI environments. A lot like Tron. Reminds me a lot of the original Tron. Sure. The technology, of course, has progressed. It doesn't hold up as well for that reason for me because the visuals don't look as good, but they're in a video game, so it kind of works.
That's what saves it for me. Is that the visual effects don't look realistic, and they're not trying to look realistic.
Exactly.
They're very stylized. there's cartoon frogs jumping around and silly looking buildings
jumping out at you.
Jumping out at you. It utilizes the 3D
it really
a lot,
does.
you
It
know.
does, yeah.
But there's a pod racing sequence in this movie.
Yeah. Big
there's
race
lava surfing.
Right. It's very much Star Wars.
Like double-sided lightsaber duels. It's very cool.
It's
this is obviously prequel era Star Wars was big.
Definitely.
And Robert Rodriguez wanted to do his little thing.
100%. Yeah. So that one's a lot of fun.
And the emotional core of the story is really
everyone's your family.
Everyone's your family, and it's about forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's about Grandpa and the toy maker used to be arch nemesis.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of the toy maker that Grandpa is in a wheelchair.
That's a strong story element.
Yeah,
it's really impactful.
Grandpa being in the virtual world is allowing him to walk for the first time since he was a young adult.
Yes.
So it's like he's kind of falling in love with the digital world and not really wanting to go back.
But then the other part of the film is that's not real. You need to live in reality.
Exactly. There's two brilliant, super emotional moments.
Yeah.
And that's with Grandpa and Junie when they're about to leave to go back to the real world.
Right.
And he says, just promise me one thing, that when you look at me in the real world, that you'll look at me like you do now.
Right.
Super good.
Yeah, it's good.
And then there's the scene between Grandpa and the toy maker.
Yeah.
Where
as soon as they get out,
he talks about
the real world.
Exactly. Yeah. He goes and confronts the toy maker. Everybody thinks he's going to kill him.
Right.
And he's like, because of you, I can't walk on the beach with my wife.
Right.
I missed my daughter's wedding.
Right.
But he's like, but I also learned humility, and patience, and kindness.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like this.
That's a great scene.
Super. To me, I think honestly, Spy Kids 3 is the most emotionally strong of the three because of those moments.
Yeah, it's really good. And the moment where they all the characters from the first two films come back into the story, and they're like, we're all here to help. Right. It's a great moment.
It's very empowering, inspiring, emotional.
I would agree.
Especially because it feels like such a culmination of all Spy Kids stuff together.
Good closer to the trilogy, for sure.
I mean, everybody from Rinky Dinks shows up and his son. Ring him, Daddy.
You ring the Dinkster.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's great.
So good. So that closed out the original trilogy, which focused on Carmen and Junie and the Cortez family. Then in 2011, they decided to make a fourth film called Spy Kids All the Time in the World with an all-new cast. Although some previous cast members show up. We'll talk about that in a second.
Sure.
This was kind of an attempt to kind of soft reboot the series. It's not like a hard reboot where it's like we're renaming characters and new actors are playing those characters and like that kind of thing. It's just in the same world. A new couple of spies, have kids and they discover their parents are spies. It's kind of that story again of the first film.
This is, I think, my biggest problem with this movie. And a lot of people, this is mostly considered the worst Spy Kids movie.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of dog on this movie, but there are a lot of interesting strengths that this movie has. But my issues are mostly with everything that it does that's the same.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do different kids and different parents, you have to totally change the dynamic.
Right.
I don't really feel that it's different enough in this.
Yeah.
The kids feel basically like they're doing a Carmen and Junie kind of thing.
Yeah, they're very generic.
Yeah.
Weren't as memorable. The performances, the script, nothing about it really stands out. There's some cool use of...
There's a really interesting villain. I really do like the villain.
And the villain has cool use of this kind of time travel technology, slowing down time and that kind of thing. So there's some cool visuals here. He keeps it pretty tight with the pacing and everything as he typically does.
It's very focused on its theme.
Its
theme of time and not having enough time to spend with your kids.
Right. Where do you spend your time? What do you spend your time doing? What's most important?
Trying to get back lost time. And,
Right. So, and it does, as we were mentioning earlier, bring back Carmen and Junie in kind of fun roles. I think their roles are pretty much the funnest part of the movie for me. So, it kind of works. It kind of doesn't for me. This one, it's not terrible, I wouldn't say, but it's definitely the weakest of the saga.
Yeah. I do like Junie comes in with a leather jacket in the middle of OSS.
Right.
He's being very rogue-like, kind of like how he was in Spy Kids 3, but they're still very familial, him and Carmen, even though they're argumentative still.
Right.
They kind of embody their Spy Kids 1 personalities more. They kind of revert to that. Which is why it's a little bit odd for me to see them like that, but it's always fun to see them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, folks. Well, that brings us to the fifth and latest film in the franchise, Spy Kids Armageddon. This is now on Netflix. It just dropped this week, so make sure you check it out. I've seen it twice now. Carson just got finished watching it for the first time. Mm-hmm. What did you think?
I loved it, man.
It was cool, right?
I thought Spy Kids Armageddon kind of encapsulated all of the other Spy Kids movies together.
There are elements from every Spy Kids movie, even All the Time in the World. That title actually is a quote
sure.
in its movie.
Sure.
So,
but it's not just little Easter eggy references and stuff. It's not just like seeing Carmen's glove from 3D or whatever.
Right.
But it's kind of the whole frame of the story is combining the strengths of the other films.
Yeah.
So it's like you have the weird Harryhausen Aztec skeleton stuff that's in there.
Yeah.
But then you have all the technology stuff kind of from 3D.
Yep.
And you have the family dynamics of the first movie. Even though it is shifted quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's an older brother and a younger sister now.
Right.
Which is different.
Yeah. And I like that they didn't feel like a repeat of the same characters.
Right.
Like these felt like new, fresh characters.
Yeah, they were very different.
But it was a similar story where the kids are finding out that their parents were spies, but pretty much everything else was different. Or something from the old movies kind of combined or twisted in a unique way.
Right, yeah.
Even like the technology, like they get on this boat at one point.
Yeah.
And it's called the Super Ducky.
Yeah.
And the Super Guppy was the sub they used.
Right.
And this is a boat and a plane. And it looks kind of like the plane that Uncle Machete built.
Exactly.
So it's just all these things that they're taking from all the other movies and making them new and different and kind of, it's really cool. It's really well thought out.
Right.
You can tell that it was made by fans, you know. I mean, the Rodriguez family makes these movies.
Sure.
They've grown up making these movies. So Robert Rodriguez makes these movies with his kids now. One of his kids wrote this movie. Another kid did the music. Another one edited it. You know, so the whole family gets involved in these, which is really cool. It makes it very unique as a franchise because someone was asked Rodriguez recently if he would ever think of passing the torch to another director, letting another director come in and do a Spy Kids. He's like, I don't know that I would because these are like my family's movies. Right. Like we've always made these together.
Like his home videos.
Exactly. His home videos that he gets to share with the world.
Yeah.
So
they're very cool.
Really cool. And this movie you
definitely
can
embodies that.
You can tell
for sure.
100%. Yeah. So really well done. You know, he's got his own studio now. This is his second film this year. We went and saw Hypnotic in theaters.
That's right.
Which is a very, very different movie. But this was all made at his studio that he's built in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
You see the Austin Capitol building at one point in the film and the streets of
30th anniversary of Troublemaker Studios.
That's it. Yeah, that was a great new logo. We enjoyed that a lot too. So yeah, this one is just really fun. Great acting. You know, Zachary Levi's in here. Sure. Gina Rodriguez. They do a great job as the parents. They're very likable.
Yeah.
The kids are very likable, very good actors as well.
Right.
Great villain, Billy Magnussian, who's a newer actor who's popped up in several things, including the new James Bond movie. Did a great job as the villain, I thought.
I did feel, I think the villain is the weakest part of this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
He's not as zany. He's not as zany and creative as I think someone like the Timekeeper or Floop, obviously. But you know, I don't really think of Floop as a villain that much.
Right, that's true.
But
he does make up for that in a great backstory.
Sure.
When they deliver the backstory of his character, that's when I really felt for him. And the end of the movie, I really liked what they did with him. So
the theme of honesty and loving your enemy. And kind of, you know, very cool. Redemption. It's very focused on that.
Yeah.
Like most great Spy Kids movies are. Very focused on its theme. Everything has a purpose and comes together in the end. And it feels very satisfying when it concludes.
It does. It feels like a complete story. We don't need another one. I would like to see another one, honestly. What they set up at the end of this, they don't like, it's not a cliffhanger ending where it's like, oh, what's going to happen next? But it's like, oh, this is a cool thing that we've done now. We can build this out further.
Right. And this is basically a reboot.
Yeah, it is. I consider this a full reboot. I think you could make it so that it takes place in the world of the other films, but I think it's better as a reboot because you're not worried so much about are Carmen and Junie coming in or what is this character doing or who is that and why is this guy named this now? Just look at it as a reboot. I think that's how they looked at it when they were making it, probably. And so that gives them a lot of freedom to possibly cross over with his other franchise.
We Can Be Heroes.
We Can Be Heroes, Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Maybe we're getting We Can Be Spies.
Sure.
Crossover. I don't know.
That'd be awesome.
It could be interesting.
Yeah,
Netflix obviously wants that.
I would love them to do something like that. That was big in the 2000s.
Yeah.
The Nickelodeon Power Hour
Right.
and all that stuff. I
Yeah.
think is super cool.
It is cool. There is quite a bit of CGI here. I think most of it works.
It looks really good.
I think
I was
most of it
surprised
is
how
really
great
good.
the visual effects
There
were.
were a couple environments, just like big shots of environments with
Sure.
actors in it, that looks a little like, oh, that's
But
kind
I
of done on a
think
green screen stage.
I think if you compare this even to All the Time in the World, I think it looks better.
I agree. I think
it looks better than We Can Be Heroes, honestly.
Oh, I agree. I agree with that as well.
This is some of the greatest visual effects we've seen from a Spy Kids or from a Robert Rodriguez kids movie.
Yeah, very low budget, film that you can tell they put. He knows how to spend money.
Exactly. The opening shot, instantly you feel the production value.
He's always done that. Grab my book right there. It's right there. Grab it. Rebel Without a Crew. Read it. If you haven't read it, you'll love reading this. It doesn't matter if you're a filmmaker or not. It's just so interesting to see how he made his first movie and what he went through and the struggles and the triumph of releasing it. And I mean, it's just really, really good. So definitely check it out. But yeah, he does a great job here. Again, it's very fun, light, entertaining for the whole family can watch this.
Sure.
Very wholesome entertainment. Very good concept, well executed. Again, great music. We really enjoyed the music here as well.
And yeah, one thing I really appreciate about this is how mature it is, in the sense that you would expect a movie like this that's dealing with the theme of technology and how it's like technology can be dangerous, but also, it's very useful and helpful for things. It really didn't just go down the route of
technology bad.
We should just ban all technology.
Right.
Smash your laptops and lock everything.
Right.
But there's good that can come from this, and there's very useful things, and obviously there's dangers, but being discerning and allowing, because it's a new age that they're in, and allowing their kids to explore this new world. It's very cool. It's very mature, and
it has a good balance between the two of it can be dangerous, but it can be good. You just have to be careful. And so
I think it deals with technology in a more mature way than Mission Impossible did.
It really does.
Honestly.
It really does. It's pretty incredible. The nuances here that you can find. And again, it's put in this package of a fun, silly family movie. There's some fun slapstick here. There's some silly jokes. I mean, there's all that kind of stuff that you expect from a silly kids movie. But if you really watch and look into it, there is a lot going on behind the scenes. There's layers to this movie.
Yeah, that rings true for all Spy Kids movies, I think.
It makes it fun for the whole family. Like I said, mom and dad will get a lot out of this movie as well as the kids. So again, highly recommend Spy Kids Armageddon. I think we both gave it 4 stars.
Yeah.
It's just one of our favorites of the year, honestly. Kind of came out of nowhere because, again, coming off of 4, we weren't expecting much.
Yeah. I think that might be a factor as to why we enjoyed it so much.
It could be.
Because our expectations were very low going into it.
True.
But it's solid.
Yeah, solid film. All right, now it's time for us to give you our ranking of every Spy Kids movie. Here we go. All right, so kicking things off with our 5th slot, that is going to be Spy Kids All the Time in the World.
Yep, that's my number 5 as well.
Yeah, not as great as the other ones. Definitely a letdown when it comes to the Spy Kids franchise.
But still had a really strong villain, and I really liked the whole theme with him and his backstory.
Yeah.
I thought that half of the movie was really compelling.
It does have some positives for sure. All right, moving on to our number 4s. At my number 4, it's going to be Spy Kids 3 Game Over.
Interesting. This is
just
not my number
4. A little too much CGI.
Okay.
A little too silly in certain scenes.
Sure.
That gets a little out of hand for me.
Okay.
But it definitely has an emotional through line that I think works. So it's hard to rank a lot of these because they have a lot of strengths. But this one to me had a few more weaknesses than others. So that's at my number 4. What do you have at 4?
My number 4 is Spy Kids Armageddon.
Okay.
Now, Armageddon, for me, obviously, I just finished watching it, so it's hard for me to rank it super high.
Right.
But I really enjoyed it. Again, it really embodies a lot of what makes Spy Kids great, and I think it's a 4-star film. I think most of the Spy Kids movies are 4-star films.
Yeah, great pick. All right, so moving on now to number 3. My number 3 is Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams. What do you have at 3?
That's also my number 3.
Okay.
Spy Kids 2, The Isle of Lost Dreams.
Great. Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. I really enjoy it.
Very fun.
It's very silly and fun, and just that. I'm a big fan of those classic 50s B movies that it's harkening back to. Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the
Absolutely.
Argonauts, all that fun
Mhm.
stuff. So
It's very quotable.
yeah,
There are many lines that I laugh out loud at every time.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love the technology.
hmm
The
cast is great.
The watch that doesn't tell time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Everybody gets their little moment to shine. That really worked in the first movie
Mhm.
is even given more to do here. Like Uncle Machete comes in and
Yes.
the Machete Elastic Wonder. There's stuff to love all over
Yeah.
this movie.
For sure. All right, moving on to our number 2 picks. At number 2, I have Spy Kids Armageddon.
Wow, that's high praise.
It is.
It's high
It
praise.
is. I know it's maybe too soon, but I just gotta say I had a blast with it. I think again because our expectations were low.
Sure.
And it's a Netflix movie, and it's he's coming for
yeah.
the 5th one. He's gonna reboot it. What? How is that gonna work? It worked really well.
Yeah.
I was really pleasantly surprised, especially as a lifelong fan.
Mm-hmm.
All the little Easter eggs, all the references, everything, the way he tied it all together.
Right.
It was just excellent.
Excellent,
So
yeah.
that's my number 2. What do you have at number 2?
My number 2 is Spy Kids 3. It's 3D. Game over.
Yes.
Yeah, I love this film. This movie has everything I'm looking for in a fun adventure. It's got Frodo Baggins, dude. I mean, he's there. He's the guy.
He's the guy.
It's truly awesome. Yeah, this movie again, lava surfing, lightsaber duels. It's got pod racing
If
sequences.
you like the Star Wars prequels, you'll love this.
Yeah. Spy Kids 3, again, that super strong emotional core that it has.
Yeah.
Just gets me to the verge of tears every time. I super dig Spy Kids 3.
Definitely. And our collective number 1 is the original Spy Kids. Man, this is just an all-time great film. Probably my favorite Robert Rodriguez movie ever.
Wow, that's high praise. I think Desperado edges it out for me.
Desperado's close,
but it's very good.
So good. I mean,
it is.
The creativity to me is what really pushes us over the line. It is just, again, it's unlike anything that came before it.
Absolutely.
Unlike anything that's come after. There have been many imitators. You've got Agent Cody Banks and Alex Rider and Catch That Kid, all these spy kid-y movies that none of them have even come close to this original film. It's really well done. Again, the casting, the performances, the writing, the action. I mean, all of it.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot of risks for a kid's spy adventure.
It does.
It does a lot of really weird,
paper,
unexpected things.
On paper, this seems like the most bizarre, ridiculous thing.
Honestly, I can't even fathom how he came up with this.
I don't know how he came up with it. I don't know how he got it made. I don't know how he pitched it to a studio and they said, "Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead
sounds good. We'll do that."
Yeah, a weird toy, a children's show entertainer turns spies into mutants and creates child robots to replace real children in the real world. I mean, it's just like craziness, but it works so well on screen. It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that's it, folks. That's our ranking of every Spy Kids movie. We reviewed them. We ranked them. I think we have now joined the ranks of the OSS.
I think so.
We have completed this mission.
Yeah.
So let us know your favorite Spy Kids movies in the comments below. Rank them for us. Let us know if you've seen Armageddon yet. If not, it's on Netflix. Go over to Netflix, check it out. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you again so much for joining us. Thanks, Carson, for being here.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about Spy Kids anytime.
It was a blast. So we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Again, make sure you hit the bell, hit subscribe. Join us on social media. Join us on Letterboxd. Next week, we're going to be back with an all-new podcast. Bert and Josh are joining me for the best AI movie. So AI is big. It's in Armageddon.
Yeah.
It's in the movie we're about to see this week, The Creator.
Yep.
Make sure you check that out this week because we're going to be talking all about that. We're going to review that film. We're going to talk about our top 5 favorite movies that deal with artificial intelligence. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check out all the other videos on the channel right now. We're over 300. We're on our way to 400 subscribers. Thank you all so much for watching. And we will see you next time right here on The Real World.
Spartans, what is your profession?
300. Great.
We're 300 strong.
300. That's all you need.